All right. I gotta make this video. I really need to go to bed, but I thought about it at work today, and I just have to put it out here. So, um, sorry if I haven't responded to anybody. I'm super busy right now, and but anyway, um, I literally made this video a long time ago about I Pet Goat and how it tied into the Chicago Cubs and Back to the Future. And today at work, I just thought of some other things that go along with it. We've been talking about Trainwreck and a possible subway series between the Mets and the Yankees, and it all has to do with this Philadelphia train wreck here that was on May 12th at 9:23 p.m. It was going 106 miles an hour. The engine number was 601, the mirror of 106. Also, the train was number 188. 238 passengers. But anyway, everything's been coded. You had the movie Trainwreck. You had, like I said, the Nicholas Winton guy who died at the age of 106 this year. You've had the Marines in France or whatever on the train. And that same guy, one of the same guys, was even from the same town as the Oregon shooting. So, anyway, I'll maybe leave a link to this. I messed up on a few of the gematria in these videos, I noticed. I have Chicago, Illinois as 144, and that's not true. It's actually 145. But I made this before I even knew what a gematria calculator was, so I made an error somewhere. But anyway, in Back to the Future, when Marty goes to 2015, he sees the deal up here, and he's surprised that the Cubs win, and they beat Miami. And he emphasizes Miami. They don't say Marlins, they just say Miami, so whatever. And the reason that the Cubs haven't won the World Series, or supposedly, is because of this, the curse of the Billy Goat. So the last time they were in a World Series was in 1945, and basically this guy was a big fan or whatever, and he brought his pet goat to the game. I'll just click on it here. And in the fourth inning of Game 4, of like a 44, he got kicked out because the goat stunk so bad or whatever. And then he threw a big fit and basically said that the Cubs will never go to the World Series again. But what I didn't put together back then was that the game was on October 6, 1945, kind of like 10-6 or 106. That all ties into the Philadelphia train wreck. But let's just check out the little clip of I Pet Goat here as well. Right in the very beginning, they show you the baseball lights. Right there, baseball lights. Then the goat pops out. He's the pet goat. And then at 106, or we'll just go here, Obama actually Bush morphs into Obama at like 10-4, 10-5, or 104 and 105. It's kind of right in between there. And the regular season of baseball ended today on 10-4. And then the Cubs actually made the playoffs this year. And they play like the wild card to get in game or whatever. And it is on 10-7 of this year. But anyway, just watch this clip here. So he kind of morphs into him at like 104, 105. And then at 106, Obama winks. Interesting, because Obama is the only president other than Abraham Lincoln that came from Illinois, where Chicago is, the Cubs. Also, some interesting things about the Chicago Cubs is that the last time they won a World Series was in 1908, which is actually 106 years ago. And it's the longest championship drought of any major North American team. So another 106, even where they play, Wrigley Field. Look at the address, 1060. You take off that 0, 106. I also want to point out that if they lose this year, it will be 107 years. And that's interesting because their next game is on 10-7, kind of like 107. Also, when the guy brought the pet goat to the game, they were playing the Detroit Tigers. And then interesting that the last time they won a World Series, they beat the Tigers 4-1. I've been talking about 41 a whole lot lately. But another crazy thing is that the only reason that they even got to win the World Series was because of this infamous play called Merkel's Boner, or however you pronounce that. They beat the New York Giants. And let's check out Fred Merkel here. It's because this guy made a base running error. But anyway, I just wanted to point out one thing. Look when the game was. September 23rd, 1908. So 107 years ago on September 23rd. And remember, October 6th and September 23rd are the same day when you convert them Julian to Gregorian. So anyway, I'm trying to just blow through this really fast here. So the Chicago Cubs are also known as the North Siders because Wrigley Field is located on the north side of Chicago or whatever. But the North Siders is interesting because in the Philadelphia Trainwreck, it was on the northeast corridor of Keystone, whatever, I can't think of what it's called right now. Keystone something. That's what the Amtrak is called. I talked about how the South Dakota shooting in Harrisburg High School, it ties in because the end of this train track actually ends in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Also interesting, this train was on its way to New York, and the last time that the Cubs almost made the World Series was in 2003, and the Yankees ended up going on to win the World Series that year, and the Yankees are in the wild card play-in game this year as well, so we'll see. And then Yogi Berra just died and whatnot. A lot foreshadowing New York versus New York, but this is all interesting with all these 106 stuff. And Obama winking at 106 and iPet GOAT, and then whatever, the 106 years. But the reason they didn't win this year was because of the Steve Bartman incident. Anyway, they were 5 outs away from advancing to the World Series. It was the 8th inning of Game 6, and whatever, this guy, there was a foul ball, and Moises Alou, which is similar to Moses when I think about it, and I've been talking about this Moses theme they've been running. Who knows if that's even what it stands for, but interesting. But this guy hit the ball while this guy was trying to catch it, and it would have left him with 4 outs or whatever to win, to advance to the World Series, basically. But after this play, the Florida Marlins scored 8 runs, and then they ended up losing the game. The Cubs lost the game 8-3. Interesting, too, was also the Marlins, which is actually Miami Marlins now, and that's in Back to the Future. The Cubs beat Miami. But anyway, so they lost 8-3. Now check this out. So Steve Bartman, or actually Steve Bartman incident, both interesting here. Steve Bartman incident adds up to 83, and they lost the game 8-3. Also, Steve Bartman adds up to 41. I've been talking about 41 a lot, even 140, which is kind of like the mirror if you take out the 0. Anyway, this is Steve Bartman here. I mean, he looks so goofy. He don't even look like he even watches baseball. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion, but seriously. But anyway, he's wearing a shirt here. You can't see it, but it actually says Renegade. And Renegade in Gematria is just like his name, 41. He was also sitting in seat 113. Super interesting. Been seeing this number a lot lately. Even the shooter in the Oregon shooter, Chris Harper Mercer, adds up to 113. So interesting, but so a long time ago I talked about how it all tied into Valentine's Day and Lupercalia and whatnot, and whatever. So the Cubs play at Wrigley Field. Wrigley adds up to 45. Valentine's is the 45th day of the year. So Miami adds up to 45. Cubs, 45. The word 45 is the mirror, 54. 54 adds up to 54. The word love, that's what you think of when you think of Valentine's, 54. And even on Back to the Future, instead of saying like sports update or whatever, it says sports flash before it tells you the Cubs win the World Series. Sports flash is even 45. But that's even more interesting because of the Billy Goat incident. The Billy Goat incident actually happened on 10/6 in 1945. Even the guy, Billy Sianis, he died in 1970 on October 22nd. So that will be 45 years ago this year. Another number we've talked about a lot is the 144. Even in iPet Goat, the clock, the hands are both on 12, so 12 is 144. I've talked about the Moses theme, the 12 tribes of Israel. There's a lot more 144. It all ties into Obama and the possible assassination. Interesting in iPet Goat, after he winks, the lotus, the pink lotus flower comes out, and then he starts sweating, and then it goes to a building collapsing. So, who knows? In the previous videos, I talked about that a little bit. But anyway, it also says that this guy bought 2 tickets worth $7.20. So I'm not sure if that both tickets were $7.20 combined. But if each ticket cost $7.20, that would be $14.40, kind of like 144. Another thing, so whatever, I talked about Valentine's being the 45th day of the year, and I never realized before, I've talked about November 16th being the mirror day with 45 days left, but what I never realized until right now is that literally, so you write 11/16 like this in America, but in other countries, they write it like this, 16-11, kind of like 1611, the year of the King James Bible, which is actually 404 years ago, 404 verses in Revelation, 404 years ago. Pope Francis even arrived in the United States at 404, on 9/23 even. Even if you converted this to Julian and Gregorian, the other 2 dates that it could be, one of them is November 29th, which is the 333rd day of the year. We talked about Pope Francis in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is in the book of Revelation. It used to be the capital of Jordan until the year 106 AD, and then it was destroyed by earthquakes. Philadelphia will be 333 years old this year on October 27th, which is the Back to the Future Day. It's also the day that the train destroys the time machine, and then Doc Brown comes back in a train time machine. If you go the other way and you subtract 13 days, it's 11/3, kind of like 113, just like the Bartman guy, his C even. Interesting, too, if you go from the day of the Philadelphia Trainwreck to November 16th, it's a span of 188 days. And remember, in the Philadelphia train, it was number 188. And I don't think I pointed this out, the 238 passengers, but check out the gematria. In Back to the Future, it says Cubs win the World Series, or Cubs win World Series is what it says, I believe. Maybe it says hold on. Yeah, Cubs win World Series. 238, just like the 238 passengers even. Also, Valentine's Day can also, Valentine's Day is what, 214? Can't even see here. 214, or also 14-2, kind of like 142. Interesting. I talked about how it's about how Obama winks at 106. President Obama adds up to 142. This is actually up to date as well. I checked it, 97 to 65, so that would be after today even. And it says that the Cubs' overall win percentage is 512 even, for its all-time, whatever, every game it's played. But 512, kind of like 512, the day of the Philadelphia Trainwreck. Interesting, too, like the Cubs were playing the Tigers, Detroit Tigers, when they last won a World Series, and then when the curse was put on them, they were playing the Detroit Tigers. And I was listening to ICP at work the other day, and I realized Detroit is actually area code 313, kind of like the day Pope Francis became the Pope. 9/23 to 11/16, like I said, 16/11, is a span of 54 days even. And I'm running out of time, so probably just going to make another video like usual, so got a lot more to talk about. And also, I'll post a link to them old videos. There's a lot more to this than what I'm talking about. I'm skipping over a lot, so Anyway, see you in the next video.